Hey there, and welcome to a brand new deep dive. We've got something really exciting lined up for you today.
Yeah, we're going to be diving into The Singularity Is Nearer.
By Ray Kurzweil.
Exactly.
Kurzweil, he's quite the futurist, known for, some pretty bold predictions.
And this book is actually, it's an update
It is.
to his 2005 work, so
Yeah.
it's fascinating to see how things have evolved.
And how quickly things have evolved, even since just 2005, right?
So, absolutely. The field of AI has just exploded.
It's moving at warp speed. It's crazy to think that we're actually closer to potentially seeing, the first superhuman AI than we are to the release of the book we're discussing today.
It really puts things into perspective.
It really does. So Kurzweil's central argument in The Singularity Is Nearer kind of all comes back to this idea of exponential growth.
And he really emphasizes it's not just, things getting a little bit faster, a little bit better each year. It's this idea that information technology, in particular,
right,
it almost has this way of fueling its own progress, like a snowball effect.
Yeah, and leading to these kind of unpredictable breakthroughs.
Exactly.
In all these different areas. He has this really powerful example in the book that I think illustrates this idea of exponential growth really well. Imagine, if you will, to have the same computing power that we have today, just in a $50 smartphone.
I can't even fathom it.
In 1965, it would have cost you $1.7 billion.
Wow.
Think about that.
It's mind-boggling.
To get that kind of computing power back then.
It makes you realize how the value of information has become so central. I mean, a smartphone.
Right.
It's not like it's worth that much in terms of the materials.
No.
It's the information it can process, what it lets us do.
Exactly. And Kurzweil, he's great at, he doesn't just keep things abstract. He actually goes into some really concrete and honestly kind of sci-fi sounding examples of how he sees AI transforming our everyday lives in the pretty near future.
He paints this picture of a future where, like, you could print your clothes.
Yeah.
Or even your house. And it would be affordable.
Affordable. It's incredible.
No more factory farming.
Yeah.
Can you imagine AI-controlled vertical farms right in our cities?
It's amazing. When you think about in 2020 alone, over 74 billion animals were slaughtered for meat consumption. That's a lot.
That's a staggering number.
And so if you have AI-grown meat, that potentially eliminates the need for all of that. And it comes back to that, decreasing cost of information technology. It makes these things suddenly within reach,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it goes even further. He talks about these microscopic nanobots.
Oh, yeah.
That could basically, go through your body repairing things at a cellular level. So we're not just talking about treating diseases here. We're talking about extending lifespan potentially significantly.
Wow.
And this isn't just, some far-off fantasy.
Right.
This is based on the very real advancements that we are seeing in AI and nanotechnology.
It's interesting, though. This all sounds amazing, but what about jobs? That's the big question that always comes up, right, when we talk about AI.
It's true. It's on everyone's mind.
But Kurzweil, to his credit, he doesn't shy away from that at all. He acknowledges that, there will be disruptions. There will be some jobs that, become obsolete.
It's like, think back to the Industrial Revolution, right? The power loom.
Right.
Completely changed the textile industry. Displaced workers, but it also created new opportunities, entire new industries. And that's kind of his point, is that,
It's like that saying, one door closes, another one opens.
Exactly.
And he sees this trend continuing. He points out that, since 1929, the average income of workers in the U.S. has quadrupled.
It's true.
Despite all the technological advancements, during that time.
Yeah.
And he sees that continuing.
Yeah. And he really envisions, this shift to what he calls a knowledge-based economy. And basically what that means is continuous learning, retraining. It's going to be key. It's not even necessarily so much the skills you have today.
Right.
It's your ability to adapt and acquire new skills as the technology evolves. And that's where I think it gets really interesting, is he sees this potentially leading to an era of abundance, and not just a select few. He really believes that this could benefit everyone.
That's a bold claim. But it does make you wonder. It makes you think, okay, what are these jobs in this new knowledge-based economy? What are they going to look like? What kind of social safety nets do we need to have in place to make sure that everyone benefits?
Exactly. And that's where I think, understanding these predictions and what they mean requires a lot of sort of critical thinking, right? It's not just about blindly embracing AI.
Right.
It's about being proactive and thinking about, okay, what are the societal shifts that are going to need to happen?
Yeah.
And how can we best manage those?
Yeah. It's not just can we do it, but should we do it, right? And then he takes us even deeper, right? He goes beyond kind of the practicalities of AI. He starts to really delve into these philosophical questions. And he really wants us to ponder, like, what does it mean to be human in a world where AI could potentially surpass
Right.
our intelligence?
And it's interesting because, he even goes so far as to explore this idea of merging with AI, right?
Yeah.
Like extending your consciousness
Yeah.
beyond your physical body.
Oh,
And he asks us to consider this thought experiment of imagine if you could gradually transfer your consciousness to a non-biological.
you 2.0, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if that were possible, then what does it mean to die?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean to die if you can back up your consciousness?
Yeah, and how does that change? I mean, it just challenges everything we think we know about
Absolutely.
life and death.
Yeah.
And what makes us human.
And even the fact that, Kurzweil points out that the odds of any one of us being born
It's credible.
with our particular set of, genes and experiences,
Yeah.
it's astronomically small.
Yeah.
It's like a 1 in 2 quintillion chance.
It's incredible.
So, I mean, talk about putting things into perspective.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And that's what's so fascinating about Kurzweil's exploration of these philosophical questions is that it's like he forces us to confront the sheer wonder of our own existence
Absolutely.
and how AI might completely redefine that understanding.
Yeah. And, of course, we can't talk about AI without talking about the risks,
Right.
the potential risks. I mean, there's a lot at stake here. And Kurzweil acknowledges those concerns as well.
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, he talks about, scenarios like terrorists using AI
Right.
to develop, extremely dangerous viruses, or, AI systems misinterpreting instructions.
Right. With disastrous consequences,
Mhm.
which those are scary things to think about.
Of course. But I think, even with those risks in mind, he still maintains this kind of underlying faith
Right.
in human ingenuity.
It's not like we're just standing still.
Exactly. And it's
Right.
not just about technological safeguards.
Right.
It's about having the right ethical frameworks in place,
Yeah.
having those societal structures that can kind of help us navigate this transition.
Yeah. And so it's not just what can we do with AI, but what should we? And he's not afraid to dive into that, which is, I think, what makes it so fascinating. It really is amazing to think about all of this stuff, But when I think about the future that Kurzweil kind of lays out, it's not even just AI.
Right.
There's another really key piece of this, and that's this idea of nanotechnology,
Oh, absolutely.
which is a whole other, it's almost more mind-boggling, this idea that we would be able to manipulate matter at the atomic level, building,
Incredible.
anything from tiny little machines to entire skyscrapers.
Atom by atom.
It just boggles the mind. And what I find so fascinating about this is that he really makes the case that it kind of changes our whole system of value.
Right.
Because he argues that things like the cost of raw materials, the cost of manufacturing, even the cost of energy become almost insignificant.
Right. So instead of a product's price tag reflecting, the materials of the labor that went into it,
Right.
it's all about the information that's embedded in it.
Yes. The design, the software. Like, think about like a blank ebook.
Yeah.
I mean, the physical cost of producing that is practically nothing.
Right.
But the value is in the information, the story, the ideas that are contained in it. And he sees nanotechnology as bringing that same kind of paradigm shift
Yeah.
to physical objects,
Yeah.
which is incredible.
It is.
It's hard to even wrap your mind around what that means for like our economy, for society, for everything.
Right.
It changes everything.
But of course, as with AI,
Yeah.
Kurzweil acknowledges that this power, this technological power,
Right.
comes with risks.
Of course. Yeah.
And one of the scenarios he talked about is, sometimes called the gray goose scenario,
Oh, yeah.
where, self-replicating nanobots basically consume.
It's such a scary thought.
It's like a sci-fi horror movie.
Yeah.
But it highlights the potential dangers
Right.
of
Right.
what happens if self-replicating technology gets out of control.
It makes you think twice. But of course, Kurzweil, he's an optimist.
Right.
And so he doesn't just leave us with that image.
Right.
He proposes, he says, well, we could design safeguards. So, for example, designing nanobots with what he calls a broadcast architecture,
Okay.
where they would need to receive instructions from some kind of external source in order to function.
Oh, okay.
So almost like having, a kill switch in place.
Right, right. So that, if things start to go haywire,
Yeah.
we can shut it down
Yeah.
before it, becomes catastrophic.
Right. That makes us feel a little bit better, I guess.
It does. It does. But even with those safeguards in place, there's always that risk
Yeah.
of, someone with malicious intent getting their hands on this technology and.
Right. It only takes one bad actor, potentially.
Exactly. And so to kind of address that, he introduces this idea of what he calls a nanotech immune system, which is basically a system that's capable of, constantly detecting and neutralizing
Wow.
any kind of rogue nanobots.
So it's like our body's immune system, but on a global scale,
Exactly.
looking for these little, nanobots.
Which, I mean, it's both kind of brilliant and terrifying.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. When you think about
Right. Like the scale of that.
yeah, wow. So to kind of bring it all together, right?
Yeah.
Our deep dive into Ray Kurzweil's The Singularity Is Nearer. I think it's safe to say he paints a picture of the future that's both exhilarating
Absolutely.
and a little bit daunting.
A little bit. Yeah.
But it really does make you think. He envisions a future where we overcome disease, where we potentially eradicate poverty, where we merge with technology, and where abundance is not the exception to the rule.
It's a powerful vision.
It's a powerful, powerful vision.
It is. And I think, he also challenges us to think critically about how we get there. It's not just about blindly accepting
Right.
this technological advancement.
Yeah.
It's about saying, okay, how can we use this? How can we shape this? How can we be thoughtful about the choices that we're making today to ensure that this technology is used for good?
Yeah. It's a call to action for all of us, to consider the ethical implications, to be proactive, to really try to shape the future that we want to see. A future where AI, where nanotechnology, where all of these things are forces for good. So I think we'll leave it there. There's a lot to unpack.
There is a lot to think about.
He gives us so much to think about, from the kind of, grand philosophical implications of consciousness and superintelligence to, the very practical concerns about, what a nanotech future might look like.
And how we navigate that.
Yeah, and how do we actually navigate all of that? But it's a fascinating journey. And remember, the future isn't predetermined.
Absolutely not.
We create it through the choices we make today. So keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep your minds open to all the incredible possibilities and even the challenging possibilities that lie ahead. And who knows, maybe we'll dive even deeper into some of these amazing concepts in our next episode. But until then, happy exploring.